Ebele, the queen, stood over her husband's lifeless body, the weight of his last words crashing over her like a tidal wave. She had always been the unwavering pillar of the kingdom, yet now she felt like the ground beneath her had crumbled, leaving her on the edge of an abyss. She turned away from the bed, her heart pounding with a new, determined fire. She would not let Adama's son take the throne. Kanu's trusted advisors were already gathering outside the royal chambers, waiting to mourn the king and pledge loyalty to his chosen successor. But Ebele knew that if the truth were revealed too soon, her children's future would be torn from them. There was no time for grief, no time to let sorrow paralyze her. Her eldest son, Prince Obi, was away in the eastern provinces, preparing for his own initiation into the council. He was young, ambitious, and devoted to his mother, but he knew nothing of his father's betrayal. For now, the truth would remain buried with Kanu. Ebele had to protect Obi's claim to the throne. She sent word to the royal guard, commanding the palace to be sealed, and that no one, not even the king's closest allies, be allowed entry to his chambers. Then she called for the king's personal advisor, Kwame, a man she had long suspected knew more than he ever let on. Kwame entered the room, his eyes filled with faint sadness as he bowed before the queen. But there was a flicker of unease behind his facade. He had served King Kanu for years, and Ebele was certain he had been part of the secret that had haunted her marriage. "Your Majesty," Kwame began softly, "the kingdom awaits your word. What are your orders in this time of mourning?" Ebele studied him carefully. She could see the tension in his posture, the way his eyes avoided hers, and it confirmed her suspicions. He was hiding something. "Kwame," she said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of authority, "tell me the truth. You were my husband's closest confidant. What do you know of this boy, this child of Adama?" Kwame froze, his face paling. "My queen, I don't—" "Enough!" Ebele's voice cracked like a whip, and Kwame flinched. "I know everything. The king is dead, and I am now your queen. Tell me where the boy is." For a moment, Kwame's eyes darted to the door, as if contemplating escape, but he knew there was no way out. He sighed deeply, lowering his gaze. "The boy. His name is Femi. He has lived in the northern province, far from the palace. The king was planning to bring him here after his passing. Femi has been groomed for the throne, my queen. King Kanu made it clear in his final decree that decree is worthless." Ebele interrupted coldly. "No one outside this room will ever know it exists." Kwame blinked in surprise. "But, my queen, the law—" "The law?" Ebele's eyes burned with a quiet fury. "The law is what I say it is now. My son, Prince Obi, is the rightful heir, and the people will accept no other. You will help me ensure this transition of power happens smoothly, or you will find yourself sharing my husband's fate." Kwame swallowed hard, realizing the full scope of Ebele's resolve. She was no longer the supportive queen standing beside her husband. She was a lioness, protecting her cubs from the wolves circling the throne. "What do you intend to do, Your Majesty?" Kwame asked cautiously. Ebele paced the room, her mind racing with possibilities. She needed to move quickly. If word of Femi's existence reached the council, or worse, the people, it would ignite a battle for the throne that could tear the kingdom apart. She could not allow that. "First," Ebele began, "you will personally see to it that Femi is kept in the northern province, far from the palace. No one is to know of his lineage. If anyone asks, he is a distant relative of the royal family, Nothing more. Kwame nodded, though his hands trembled slightly. Second, Ebele continued, we will delay the announcement of the king's death. The people must believe their king died peacefully, and that his final wish was for our son Prince Obi to succeed him. You will forge a decree in the king's name, one that leaves no doubt of Obi's claim. But your majesty, Kwame stammered, what if Femi learns of his birthright? What if he returns to claim the throne one day? Ebele's gaze darkened, her voice now chillingly calm. If Femi ever becomes a threat to my children's future, he will not live to see that day. The tension in the room was suffocating. Kwame could see that Ebele would stop at nothing to protect her family. He bowed his head in obedience. As you command, my queen, he whispered. Weeks later, the kingdom of Ndala mourned the death of their great king Kanu. In a grand ceremony, Prince Obi was crowned the new ruler, with his mother standing proudly at his side. No one questioned his right to the throne. The people believed in the strength of the royal family and the wisdom of their new king. But far to the north, in the quiet hills of the province, a young man named Femi stared into the horizon, unaware of the legacy that had been stolen from him. For now, he was just a boy with no idea of the destiny he had been denied. Years passed, and Prince Obi's reign flourished under Queen Ebele's careful guidance. The kingdom of Ndala grew stronger, its people prospering under a ruler who was both young and wise, thanks to the counsel of his mother. But while peace reigned within the palace walls, a storm was quietly brewing beyond them. In the northern province, Femi had grown into a young man, tall and striking, with a natural charisma that made him a leader among his people. Though he didn't know the full truth of his lineage, he had always felt different, as though he was destined for something greater. His adoptive guardians had told him little about his origins, only that he came from royal blood, but was never to question his place. But questions had begun to haunt him. Femi often caught whispers, strange looks from those who knew more than they let on. Why did the elders treat him with such quiet reverence? Why did they insist that he never leave the northern province? And why, when he looked toward the distant capital, did he feel a pull deep within his soul, as though the throne of Ndala itself was calling him home? One day, while walking through the market, Femi overheard a group of merchants talking about the grand coronation that had taken place years ago. The story of how Prince Obi had been crowned king was a familiar one, but this time something in their conversation caught his attention. I tell you, there were rumors, whispers, that the true heir was never even in the capital that day, one of the merchants said in a low voice. Some say the queen kept him hidden away, far from the throne, so her own son could rule. Femi's heart raced as he heard the words. True heir? Hidden away? His mind began to spin with possibilities. Could they be talking about him? He decided then and there to confront the one man who had always seemed to know more than he revealed. Kwame. The old advisor had visited the northern province regularly over the years, always bringing news from the capital, but he had never spoken openly about Femi's true heritage. That night, Femi sought out Kwame at his quarters, determined to get the answers he had been denied for so long. Kwame, Femi said, his voice firm and unyielding, I need you to tell me the truth. Who am I? The old advisor looked up from his scrolls, his expression unreadable. He sighed deeply, as though the weight of years of secrets was finally pressing down on him. "You are the son of Adama," Kwame said, his voice barely above a whisper, "and the firstborn son of King Kanu." Femi's breath caught in his throat. Though he had suspected something of the sort, hearing the words out loud shook him to his core. "I am the rightful heir, aren't I?" Femi demanded, his voice growing stronger. "I was meant to be king." Kwame hesitated, knowing that what he said next could change the course of history. But there was no point in hiding it any longer. The truth had always been a fragile thing, and now it was time for it to shatter. "Yes," Kwame finally admitted, "you were meant to be king. But Queen Ebele, she made sure that would never happen. She used her power to erase your claim and secure the throne for Prince Obi. You have lived in the shadows while your brother rules in your place." Femi's hands clenched into fists. The life he had known, the quiet existence in the northern province, had been a lie. He had been robbed of his birthright, betrayed by the very people who should have protected him. "And my mother?" Femi asked, his voice tight with emotion. "What happened to her?" Kwame looked away, shame filling his features. "Adama. She died many years ago. The queen never forgave her for being the true love of King Kanu. Your mother paid the ultimate price." Rage boiled in Femi's chest. His mother was gone, his birthright stolen, his life shaped by a betrayal he had never seen coming. And now there was only one thing left for him to do. "I will take back what is mine," Femi vowed, his voice shaking with anger. "I will return to Ndala, and I will reclaim the throne that was stolen from me." Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Queen Ebele, a section Kealala's hold on the kingdom, was sleeping. Prince Obi, now a seasoned king, had begun to question his mother's decisions more frequently. Though she had always been his most trusted advisor, her controlling nature had started to create rifts between them. Whispers of rebellion were beginning to spread, fueled by rumors of a hidden heir, a prince in the north who had more right to the throne than the king himself. Ebele knew that the time was coming. She had always feared this moment, the day when the truth about Femi would rise from the shadows. She had been careful, silencing those who dared speak of the boy's existence, but now the rumors were growing louder, and she could no longer ignore them. One evening, as she stood alone on the palace balcony, looking out over the kingdom she had fought so hard to protect, a messenger arrived with news that chilled her to the bone. "Your Majesty," the messenger said, bowing low, "there are reports from the northern province. The people are rallying around a young man, a prince they claim is the son of Adama. His name is Femi." Ebele's heart stopped. The reckoning she had feared for years had finally come. Femi, now emboldened by the truth of his heritage, gathered an army of loyal followers from the northern provinces. Word of the true heir spread like wildfire, igniting the hearts of those who felt wronged by the current regime. As he marched toward the capital, the tension in the kingdom reached a fever pitch. Inside the palace, Queen Ebele made her preparations. She knew that if Femi reached the throne room, her rule and possibly her life would be over. But she wasn't ready to give up her crown or her son's place on the throne. She had fought too hard, sacrificed too much. As Femi's forces neared the capital, the streets filled with supporters from both sides. The kingdom was on the brink of civil war, and the palace braced for an inevitable clash between the queen's army and Femi's rebels. On the day Femi reached the gates of the royal palace, Queen Ebele stood atop the steps, regal and defiant, her gaze unwavering as her son approached. Behind her, King Obi watched with conflicted eyes, torn between the mother who had raised him and the brother he had never known. Femi stepped forward, the crowd falling silent as he faced the woman who had stolen everything from him. "You cannot deny the truth any longer, Ebele," Femi said, his voice ringing through the courtyard. "I am the rightful king of Ndala, and I have come to claim what is mine." Ebele's face was pale, but her voice remained steady. "You may be the son of Adama, but that does not make you king. This kingdom was built on loyalty and law, and I will not let it be torn apart by an illegitimate claim." Femi's eyes burned with determination. "You may have controlled the kingdom with lies for all these years, but the truth has returned. The people know who I am, and now they will decide." The crowd gathered before the palace, breathless and silent. The air was thick with anticipation as Femi, the lost prince, stood across from Queen Ebele on the palace steps. Behind her, King Obi watched, torn between loyalty to the mother who raised him and the blood brother he had just met. Femi's voice rang clear through the courtyard. "Queen Ebele, you may call me illegitimate, but we both know my bloodline. The people of Ndala have waited too long for the truth. I have come to take my rightful place." Ebele raised her chin, her voice cold but trembling with conviction. "You speak of blood, Femi, but true leadership is earned through sacrifice and loyalty to the people. Can you truly say you have fought for Ndala as I have?" Murmurs rippled through the crowd. They had witnessed the strength of Ebele's rule, but whispers of her betrayal had spread. Femi turned to them, his face softened by a deep, raw honesty. "For years I was kept in the shadows, hidden from you all, robbed of my place, but my love for Ndala has grown with every heartbeat. I will fight not to tear us apart, but to bring us together in truth." Obi stepped forward, his face marked by uncertainty. He looked at Femi and then at his mother. "Is it true, mother? Did you hide Femi's birthright to keep me on the throne?" Ebele's face softened and she took Obi's hands in hers. "Everything I did was to protect you, to keep our family strong. I have made sacrifices, Obi. You are the true king in my eyes." Obi's gaze fell, pain clouding his face. Femi put a hand on his shoulder. "Brother, you are strong and wise. This kingdom does not need division. Together we can rule as allies, united for the good of Ndala. Let the people see that our strength lies in unity, not secrets." Ebele's face tightened, but the crowd's cries began to swell, voices chanting for peace, for unity, for truth. She realized reluctantly that she was losing the loyalty of the people and of her own son. Finally, Obi lifted his head. "Mother," he said quietly, "Ndala deserves the truth. Femi is my brother, and he has a right to stand beside me. Together, we can rule a kingdom built on honesty and trust." A deep silence settled as Ebele stepped back, her grip on power slipping through her fingers. She nodded, defeated but proud of the strength she saw in her sons. With a final trembling breath, she whispered, "Then let the people of Ndala have the unity they deserve." The crowd erupted into cheers as Obi and Femi stood side by side, each placing a hand over their hearts, pledging loyalty to each other and the kingdom. Ebele stepped down from the throne, her reign ending with dignity, and left the palace with a quiet strength. From that day forward, Ndala was ruled by both brothers, ushering in an era of peace and prosperity, rooted in the hard-won lessons of loyalty, forgiveness, and unity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the kingdom of Ndala. What did you think of Femi and Obi's decision to rule together? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more epic stories like this one.